conditions bearish in this overall bull market, as we're seeing continued weakness across the board, as well as an S&P 500. We still got a majority bearish at 9 on the daily time frame. We've got majority bearish at 14 on the 1 hour time frame. Continue to see it sliding back down, approaching this demand block, this support area at the 236, about that 5909 number, where it has been retesting and finding support so far. That area's got to hold up. It looks like it's going to be tested or retested right here today. That is on S&P futures. If we look at SPX, very similar price pattern, other than just the morning activity this morning on ES. Continued weakness here across the board. And we talked about consolidation yesterday. Which direction is that consolidation, or that compression of trend on the 60-minute time frame? Is it going to hold up here, or are we going to start to accelerate to the downside? Watch this area of support on the S&P 500. If that breaks down, this green block right here, which is corresponding to this one over here, breaks down, that next stop is going to be 57.25 down to that 382 level. And then we're running into more resistance. So this will be an interesting and significant price point. If it can't hold up, that next retest, and then it becomes that overhead supply area again. That breaks down, that creates a market structure shift as well, to where we are breaking through a significant support area. It'll be a critical day here, and as well as the next couple of days. We've got continued weakness across the board and breadth. Stocks above their 50-day moving average at 23. So we're still 75% of stocks in downtrends on the S&P 500, or at least below their 50-day moving average, and in most cases those are going to be in downtrends. We're seeing volatility pick up just a little bit yesterday. We saw that 1 hour time frame starting to move back up. We had been in this compressed state. We're now majority bullish, and we're also compressed and now moving back up to majority bullish as well. You can see how compressed, and then you had that first little blip of that bar starting to move higher. That could be an indication of some increased volatility coming into the market. We're at that point where we want to make decisions before the volatility starts to happen right here, and so that's part of the point of what we're discussing here as well, is watching to see what our probabilities are. We've got majority bearish on breadth. We've got S&P 500, which is attempting this support area. It's got a weakening bullish trend on the 1 hour, a weakening bearish trend on the daily, weakening bearish trend on the 1 hour as well. Those are adding up towards more bearish price activity. If we take a look at bonds, SHY, that short end of the yield curve, seeing some support right here. We've got majority bearish, but a little bit of support. You can see that 1 hour time frame. It's trying. It's really trying to get somewhere. It's just now counter trending back up. We've got majority bearish on the 1 hour. We saw this rally here, but that's starting to weaken. We'll see if that holds up on the SHY. TLT, the long end of the yield curve, continuing to weaken here as well. These are significant price activity for bonds. Keep an eye on that as well. We've talked about that when we have an inverted yield curve, which we have had. That inverted yield curve typically it starts to show up in the economy 12 to 18 months later. And so we can see where we went inverted here is anything under yellow. That was back in 2022. 2023, we've been working our way back up this direction. So if we're going to start to see any issues economically because of this yield curve, the interest rate inversion, then it's going to start to show up relatively soon. We'll see that if we get some earnings reports coming in, economic data numbers coming in as well. Let's look at Dow Jones Industrial Average, this chart pattern for DIA showing continued weakness here, majority bearish on the 1 hour. Let me just get this situated a little bit here, as well as that 1 hour time frame, still creating some potential for this support area. This 421 on DIA could be at risk to break down. It's still holding up though, and want to see if that can do it here as well. You can see this price pattern, but continued weakness and downtrend on Dow Jones Industrial Average as well. Triple Qs, we've got I'm going to come in. I like to look at this chart at about a 6-month time frame. You can see down here is that time frame just to give us that little bit more recent trend activity. Some weakening activity here on triple Qs yesterday and the day before. Majority bearish on the 1 hour with a compressed price trend. Again, the compressed price trend is anticipating an expansion of price trend. Okay, we're going from narrow to wide. Okay, we're going from narrow to wide to the downside as well. It works on both directions, narrow expansion to the upside. So we'll see if we are, if this overall trend on this 60-minute time frame for the Qs is also in play. And we're right at this area again, this upper end of this range, kind of topping out, some resistance here, some trending to the downside. Keep an eye on triple Qs here today as well. Russell 2000 also majority bearish and showing weakness. USO finding some strength here. We do have majority bullish on both the daily and the 1 hour, and attempting some breakout price pattern here around that $80 level on USO. We do have an expansion of trend now on the 1 hour. We'd gone from compression to expansion. We've now gone to working on expansion here. Now that we're finalizing compression, trend is starting to shift. It's gaining momentum that direction. USO could see some continued upside of this current trend. GLD also trying to make sense of what's happening in the world, and it has a compressed state right here as well, compressed towards the upper end of that trend, which means this bull market trend of the majority of that long-term trend still intact, and that's also giving us confirmation here on this price pattern on about that 6-month time frame as well. We've got a low back down there in July. We haven't moved back up into momentum yet, but we're at least above the counter trend corrective zones, which are these right here. So overall uptrend still intact for gold, and watching to see if we get some acceleration to the upside. Again, if markets continue to weaken and move to the downside, gold is a place that flight to safety where a lot of investors like to run to, and we'll see if it continues to gain some momentum here. SLV, a similar price pattern, gaining some strength here in the shorter term as well. It's running a little bit behind gold, as it has really for the last couple of years. On price activity, it's a little bit more aggressive. That's the silver trade. Let's take a look at a couple of stock ideas from the scans today. SNCY in the airline space, nice confirmation bar, increased volume there as well. That's for SNCY. The other I wanted to look at is HNRG, which is big volume in the coal space, up 7% yesterday, and shifting back up into that momentum zone as well as back into that trending bullish location. Compressed trend here as well on the 60-minute. A couple stocks to consider for today's market activity. That'll do it for today's update. Everyone have a fantastic day today.